Dr. J. Smith here. I want, before I move on to another subject, I really want to also tackle another area of this difficulty between Yahweh and Allah. And that is the common accusation that we get from many Muslims that if you open up the Arabic Bible, the name for God there is Allah. Therefore, the suggestion is, since the name is Allah in the Arabic Bible, then it stands to reason that the Allah of the Arabic Bible must be the same as the Allah of the Quran. Now, I want to answer that three ways. There are three different problems with that. The first is very simple. The name may be the same, but that doesn't mean the God behind the name is the same. My name is Jay. Listen, there are many. There are probably thousands, maybe not millions, but thousands of people called Jay. They may not be called Jay Smith, but there are thousands that are called Jay. Does that mean just because we share the same name that we are the same person? Absolutely not. And for every one of you who are watching this video, you'll say the same thing about your name. Your name is used by many others, thousands, millions of others, if you're like someone like John or David. So that would be too simplistic to simply say because they share the same name, they must be the same God. Secondly, another problem is, why is it that we even have Allah in the Arabic Bible? And the reason is very simple. Allah is the only name in Arabic for God. So therefore, the translators, when they came across the Arabic, they used the only name that was available. They could have used Rabb, but they chose Allah because that was the best. And it was the best dynamic equivalent. And that's the problem right there. Dynamic equivalent. So what are dynamic equivalents? In translation theory, whenever you come across a word that you need an alternative for in another language, you look for the equivalent in the other language. And that's what's called dynamic equivalent. Best pushed forward by a man named Dr. Eugene Nida. And he said this that this was to be done by all translators right across the world. The problem with that is, I don't even have time to get into the difficulties with that, but you can see the difficulty immediately. If you go to any known language all over the world and you take the senior God or the greatest God or the eternal God of every one of those languages and you bring it into the Bible, you not only bring the form of the word, but you bring the meaning with it. Form and meaning is an anthropological and sociological and linguistic idea. This idea of bringing a dynamic equivalent falls to pieces because the meaning of that God in that particular language is not the same meaning as we find in the Bible. And that's the reason why I'm even bringing this question up. Be careful, because the meaning of God in our Bible is very different than the meaning of the God in the Quran. I said that in the earlier video. What's more, and this is point number 3 coming up, take a look at the Allah of the Quran and look and see where that name comes from. And you know, it's not a name. Allah is not a name. It's a title. It's a title from the word ilaha, which comes from Nabatean. The Nabateans were the ones that gave us Arabic. The Arabic language is derived from the Nabatean language. And ilaha is a very well-known God. It is in the pantheon of gods. Oh, did I say pantheon? Oh, dear. Pantheon of gods? Yes. What's fascinating is, according to the latest research, and we're still uncovering this as we go, from looking at the Nabatean script and looking at the Nabatean God, the senior God, the God, the creator, is known as Dushara. That is his formal name. His title, the God, ilaha, is nothing more than a generic title. It is not a name. Ilaha is nothing than a generic name. What's fascinating is, if you unpack who this Dushara is, it looks like Dushara has a wife named Aluza. But her generic title is Alat. Alat, the feminine form of Allah. Ooh, So not only is this name Allah a title, it's not a real name, it's nothing more than a generic title for another name of God named Al-Dushara, who has a wife named Alat. If that is so, then you can see a problem right here. We should not be using Allah for the God of the Bible at all, because God of the Bible does not have a wife. Interestingly, neither so supposedly does God of the Quran. In chapter 6, verse 101 and 102, it's very clear that God has no consort. I'll let Muslims deal with that, but it seems to be that if whoever wrote the Quran, by bringing in Allah or ilaha from the Nabatean script. You've not only brought over a pagan god, but you brought over a polytheistic God, a God that has nothing to do with the biblical God. And that's why be careful about taking the word Allah for the God of the Bible. We cannot go back and retranslate all the Arabic Bibles, unfortunately. But I think we can be aware of the fact that the Allah of the Bible is not the same as the Allah of the Quran. Come on home, folks. Come home to the real God, and his name is Yahweh. God bless you. God, Yahweh, bless you. This is Jay, over and out.